run away. Run away, because very soon whatever you say will be dragged through the mud. Always remind yourself that whatever image you are presenting to this person, you will not be able to sustain. You will feel valueless, you will feel worthless. So today we are talking about who not to date. In my consulting room, I hear so much about relationships, and sometimes it's mind-boggling how people date certain people that right from the word go, they possibly shouldn't have even started a conversation with at all. So today we are going to talk about 3 different people you shouldn't date. You shouldn't date. The first group, the people I call the entitled group. Don't date an entitled person. Who is an entitled person? An entitled person is that person who cannot take anything that looks like a denial of their desires, of their interest. So the first group of people you shouldn't date is the entitled group. Anybody who falls within this category is a no-no for you. Don't start, don't engage. Now, how do you know if someone is entitled or not? So an entitled person is that person who does not take no for an answer, who does not regard or respect or honor your denial of their desires. So for example, if you ever have to go out with this person and you tell the person, no, I'm sorry, because of something, or because such and such came up, and so we won't be able to go out, and you hear something like, so what do you expect me to do? Okay, that kind of response is coming from somebody who is entitled. Ideally, what you should hear is that, oh, okay, sorry about that. When else can we go out? So when you hear, so what do you expect me to do? The person is trying to communicate that what you are interested in is not of interest to them. What they want is for you guys to go out. So that's an overtly entitled person. They would question why you say no to their demands. And once they keep questioning why you say no, even if you have very, very good reasons, it's time to run away. Now, there's the covertly entitled person. So a covertly entitled person won't say something like, oh, why can't we go out, or something like that. You'd see a quick withdrawal. So, okay, I'm sorry, we can't go out today. Can we postpone to another time? Okay, I've heard you. And then the next time you are calling him, there's no response. He's not going to answer your call. She's not going to answer your call. Not going to text back, and that's a covertly entitled person. Now, if you see anything that suggests that the person is trying to control your desires, even when you have a good reason, please run away. Why is this important? Because once you start seeing an entitled person, 2 things are going to happen to you. You are likely to lose yourself. Psychologically, you begin to live in the shadows of this person. So you don't want to do it, but you end up doing it because the person said you should do it. That makes you lose your authenticity, your individuality, your autonomy, and that is a problem. Secondly, if you go ahead to date an entitled person, you are likely to learn entitlement. So it's going to be, okay, the last time I said we should go out, you said you cannot go out. And so now that you are asking me to go out, I will also not go out. That is being entitled. So one person you shouldn't date is an entitled person. How do you, I've already mentioned how to spot an entitled person. Now, how do you prevent yourself from being entitled? If you ever get a denial, oh, okay, can we go have a drink? And you hear something like, oh no, I don't think this is a good time. Recognize that the person is autonomous. The person has their individuality. The person should be able to say no, and you should be able to respect that. So anytime you feel like you want to control someone else's desires, make every effort to hold yourself back and remind yourself that that is a sense of entitlement, and that's something you should give up. So going forward, if you meet an entitled person and the person begins to control your desires, run away. That will save you your mental health. And a lot of people have tried dating entitled people, and this is what typically happens. And they lose themselves, they become depressed, they become anxious, they begin to feel unworthy of love because someone dictates what love is to them. And then they end up struggling mentally. Or they begin to cry a lot. They don't share how they really feel. They cry a lot. They feel angry with this person who seems to be controlling the activities, and yet they cannot speak up. So they become resentful, they become angry, and then sometimes they hate themselves and the other person. Wherever you fall, all these are negative emotions and they are not going to help you. Number 2, second person you shouldn't date, don't date this person, is the person who behaves like an ostrich. So this is a person who lives in denial. So if you meet somebody and the person is constantly living in some form of a denial, okay, you ask a question like, where do you work? And they mention something very big. Oh, okay, I work with this multi-million-dollar company. Okay, as what? And they mention something big, and they make it look like they have it all. When you know, based on whatever investigation or conversations you've had, you know that they're still rising in their career, that person is living in a denial because the person doesn't have a clear sense of reality, what is going on with them, and such a person may not grow. So avoid somebody who lives in a denial. People who live in denial, you'd easily find little traces of lies. So they said something, they've twisted it a bit, and then when you ask, they never come clean. That is it. And then also you find out that they live in their fantasy. So when you tell them, oh, who does that car belong to? It's mine. Okay. Are you sure it's yours? Yes, it's mine. Say, okay, but I mean, knowing you, I think this is your father's car. Yeah, it's my father's car, but my father's car is mine. It's living in a denial. Father's car is not yours. Forget it. Now, if somebody holds on to the fantasy that his father's car is his, or her father's car is hers, and you try to point it out that your father's car is really not yours unless it has been willed to you, and they cannot shake that off because they want to believe that it is theirs, they are living in a denial. Now, if you date someone like that, chances are you are likely to consistently hear a lot of lies, consistently find a lot of inconsistency in what they say. You'd also find that people living in denial, they don't really achieve much. So they may be misers without knowing, they may be stingy without knowing, they may be bossy without knowing, and sometimes that kind of experience can put you in a very bad space. So second person you shouldn't date, somebody who lives in a denial, somebody who outrightly rejects reality. So if you ever find yourself also being in denial, for example, you so love somebody and you want to present a certain image to that person, always remind yourself that whatever image you are presenting to this person, you will not be able to sustain. And then after some time, you will become overbearing because you cannot defend the image you are presenting. So if you find yourself being in that state of denial, always remind yourself that you need to present a real self, and your real self is your real situation, which is subject to change. So for example, you could say that, okay, my father's car is not mine, but I hope to buy my own, I'm working towards buying my own car soon. That takes you out of denial. It helps you to look into the future with some optimism without being stuck in the present. So that is one way of rising above denial. And if you ever bring it up to someone that, hey, given all the things you tell me, it appears you do not like to present who you really are in your present circumstance. Once they are very dismissive of that, I don't want to have that, this is who I am, and I am this, I'm that, it is time for you to run away, because soon you'd realize that you can't keep up with such a person. What's it going to do to you? It's going to make you tired. You would always have to go clean the person's mess because they would have said something to someone they shouldn't have said, or they would have projected themselves in a certain way, which puts them in that situation where you will have to go and do damage control, and you can definitely not keep up. When you're dealing with somebody who is living in denial, be upfront with the person. If the person refuses or dismisses you, it is time to run away. Don't date an ostrich. Don't date someone living in denial. Number 3 and final one, don't date a mule. A mule is someone who is headstrong, doesn't take advice from anyone, and this shows in two ways. So there are those who outrightly say, hey, I'm not interested in what you're saying, I know what I'm doing and I'm going to stick with that. That's someone who is overtly headstrong. And then there's the other one who will say, okay, I've heard you, but I will never do it. In both cases, if you date such a person, you will never progress because there's no advice. This person cannot serve anyone. It means that this person is more likely to miss opportunities, because opportunities come when you serve people, when you support people, when you are there for people, then you get opportunities. But someone who is headstrong, I'm not going to do it, and then you try to speak the person out of it, I'm not going to do it, run away, because very soon whatever you say will be dragged through the mud. You will feel valueless, you will feel worthless, you will feel like you're not adding anything to your relationship. And so don't date someone who is headstrong. Now, how does it play out? Sometimes very subtle. For people who are headstrong, you would find that whatever you suggest to them, there's no second thoughts to it. People who are not headstrong can say, I don't really agree with what you're saying, but I'll give it a thought. And then over time, they'll come back and say, okay, I give it a thought, but this is my opinion right now. Can we talk about it? That's somebody who is willing to change his mind. A mule, somebody who doesn't change his thoughts, is going to say, no, I'm not having this, and will not bring it up again. They never have a conversation about it. Whatever they believe is whatever they believe. And if you live with such a person, you are likely to struggle all your life. And what happens in the future is that you may end up living as an individual in a relationship. We are supposed to find our individuality, that's fine. But in a relationship, we codepend. If you don't take care and you stick with such a person, you are likely to be an individual who is not codependent in a relationship. And that is frustrating. That's when you want to talk to someone else, you want to talk to another friend, you don't feel the relationship is nourishing enough. This person will not do anything you expect them to do. Mind you, if you are dating a mule, someone who doesn't listen, and you have a good idea, you are going to struggle getting this person to come along. So for example, you're dating a mule, nice guy, sweet guy, everything is fine. But then you tell him, hey, I think we've put some resources together. Don't you think it's time for us to begin to work towards marriage? And he says, no, I'm getting married in the next 7 years. He's a mule. He's not going to change his mind. He won't bring it up for a conversation. He will assess his resources. I'm getting married in the next 7 years. That will make you frustrated. For a woman, now if you're a man and you're dating a woman who is a mule, headstrong, you are going to get completely frustrated, and that predisposes you to talking to other people and being vulnerable to other people. So mind you, there are 3 people you shouldn't date. When you start a conversation, look out for the traces, try them and hear them out. If I say try them, what I mean is that I've given a few tips, go back to them, listen to what they say, listen to their responses, and if you find out that they do not want to change, run away. Because if you date an entitled person, it's going to change you completely. If you date someone living in denial, you never make progress. And if you date a mule, you always live in oppression. Thank you very much, and I hope this helps. This is Unfiltered Psyche, where you hear from your psychologist without filters. Thank you.